All right. With that, I will call a meeting of the Policy and Governance Committee to order. Um, This is a public meeting, and it is now 3:03. So I will call the attendance. Um, So we have, in terms of members of the committee, Avery Gaddis, not here. Ojala Naeem,
She indicated she had a conflict. She would not be making the meeting today.
right, okay. Michael Jefferson,
Present.
present. Shirley Skyers Thomas,
Present.
and I'm the chair, Edwin Shirley, serving as chair. And we also have with us Executive Director Clay. I see Karen Colbert is with us, along with other members of the staff. I see Anna Rosa, and help me, Director Clay, with the other names.
You have Christina Diamond, Arlene Galindo Jimenez, and Vera Lembrick.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So today's agenda is a continuation of a discussion we had with regard to the social equity plans and and workforce development plans, and how the Social Equity Council can evaluate progress being made on those plans from the social equity applicants, and where there is no progress, what can be done to just to encourage, that's the word I was looking for, encourage our social equity applicants to follow through on those plans that have been mutually agreed on. So with that, Director Clay, could you give us an update with where we are in that discussion?
Sure. We admitting member Gaddis, who is joining us right now.
Great.
How's everybody doing?
Hi there.
Just fine. Thank you for joining us, Councilman Gaddis. Glad to have you.
So I just want to recap at our last meeting and last conversation of the committee. We talked about the fact that the Social Equity Council, the legislation, does not provide the council with authority to enforce the implementation of workforce development plans or social equity plans. So we did a little bit of research on Ms. Chairman Shirley, you had indicated that some of the utility companies may be faced with fines if they don't do certain things that they're required to do. And so Karen Colbert went and did a little bit of research on the DPUC, Department of Public Utility Control. They're the ones in Connecticut that handle the utilities, the water, the cable, the electric companies. And so she put together some information, what's called Title 16, that gives the DPUC authority to issue fines and penalties and to make sure that these utility companies are doing what they're supposed to do, maybe on a social level or on a regulatory level. So that was the closest that we could find of kind of control. So I'm going to let Karen speak a little bit about that and what she found in her research.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Shirley and committee members.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. What I found was most of the cases that I saw that I researched were about regulatory issues. And seeing as this is a social equity council, they weren't directly corresponding to the tasks that are at hand at the Social Equity Council in terms of what's available for enforcement in terms of the social equity plans and the workforce development plans in terms of implementation. And so what I did find was what's available to the regulatory agency is that they can implement fines. They can also suspend licenses or certifications, which, as we have been told by Councilwoman Shirley Skyers Thomas, would not be an option available to the Social Equity Council, as that is not the function. That's actually a function that pertains to licensing and renewal processes at the Department of Consumer Protection. However, if there are amendments made to the statute, then that would provide for some implementation enforcement type of oversight by the Social Equity Council, then perhaps that could proceed, but that would be going forward and recommending the committee recommending that to the full council, and the full council then proceeding on to the legislatures with those recommendations for amendments to the statute. But that's what I came up with.
Okay.
That's what I found in
All right.
terms of what may be available if the procedures are put in place to have either amendments to the statute or to the policies.
Thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
just to reiterate, and we appreciate the work you did there, and taking
Thank
a
you.
look and contacting the authorities there. In our last conversation, I do recall we had taken a look at the options or potential options. We're taking a dim view. I think Councilman Gaddis brought it forward, and there was agreement with him that the implementation, shall we say, of fines would be not something desirable, not the most desirable remedy that we would like to impose. And so we thought that we were trying to figure out other avenues. And one thing, it sounds to me that from your research, that even though the Social Equity Council does not have the capability of license suspension or the delay of license renewal, there are other state agencies. I think what does Consumer Protection may have such a I don't know whether it's DECD or the Consumer Protection DCP would have that authority, because I'm just thinking rather than, and help me here, Director Clay, rather than for us to impose any penalties, can we recommend the imposition of penalties to the appropriate agency when we find that the license holder has not gone forward with what he or she agreed to do? Does that make sense?
It does, and we can make a recommendation, but in the renewal, and Commissioner Skyers Thomas can clarify this. So in the DCP renewal of adult use cannabis licenses, there is nothing in their policy. I don't think there's anything in their regulations that indicates that they can actually suspend the license based on the non-implementation of a social equity plan. So I'll let her speak to their policies.
I see Councilman Jefferson has his hand raised.
Yeah, I'll defer to Councilwoman Skyers Thomas, then I'll comment.
Okay.
I'll keep it very brief. You're absolutely correct, Director Clay. With our application and renewal process, it does not speak to the connection between our imposing of fines having anything to do with not submitting or improperly submitting or a rejected submission for the social equity plan. If we were to do any augmentation of that, I believe we'd have to do it statutorily or Yeah, statutory as opposed to regulations. So yeah, you're correct in that. I just wanted to kind of chime in and yield back to Councilman Jefferson.
Thank
Chairperson.
you.
Thank you for that.
Councilwoman Scott, through you, Mr. Chair, why don't we simply treat it as a glitch in the legislation? You know, this thing was passed and we had to fill some gaps and clarify some matters. And we also had to bring, suggest certain amendments. And we did that in the last legislative session. It's, that's how I see it. It's no way in the world that they passed this legislation without having some sort of remedy for those who do not acquiesce according to our mission. We are the Social Equity Council. Um, Creating a plan, a social equity plan, is critical for us and for our mission, as is having a workforce development plan. So it's just oversight, and I think the most prudent way to approach it is to figure out we know what the intent is, and simply have that conversation either with DCP and some lawmakers to see how we can best remedy the situation. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think any of you think it's rocket science. I just think moving forward and keeping in mind what the chair indicated regarding Councilmember Gaddis's comments at the last meeting. Keeping that in mind, I think we should move accordingly. And what I mean by that is simply talk to DCP and through Councilwoman Skies Thomas, and talk to some of the legislators to get a sense of how we can remedy the situation. I don't think it's complicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Jefferson. Any other comments? I have one, but I see if anyone else has a comment.
I do, sir. Just to confirm and underscore, I think that's a good option. And to have our legal on to have this conversation to see just how best to move forward. And I do believe it was just oversight. You know, we try our best to capture everything when we put forward legislation, but there are definitely going to be spaces where we didn't capture it. So I think that is a good idea.
And so the idea, just to let's see if we can recap Councilwoman Skies Thomas, the thought moving forward. We would approach who?
That would be me, sir, but I would bring in our legal counsel, and that's Julian Evelyn.
Okay.
And from the council's point, that would be me, and I would bring in Christina Diamond.
Okay.
Exactly. And through you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for not using protocol, but
No.
I think once we do those two things with the executive director and Councilwoman Sky Thomas, I think we could, if we have to, we can put forth an amendment. And I don't think it could be a minor amendment, as long as we're not talking about fines or whatever have you, which will drag it into a debate, a long unnecessary debate. I think we can put forth an amendment in this legislative session, because it's not costing anything, any money or anything. It was just an oversight. That's all.
Right. And I mean, my thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but my thought is that in a perfect world, given that there is a lot of discussion, dialogue between the Social Equity Council staff and potential license holders as they prepare their social equity plans and their workforce development plans, they have to have that in place before they're approved to have a license. It would make sense that if they don't implement those plans, that to me, a renewal of the license would be withheld until it is seen that they are making headway with what they said they would do. At least if they should either do it or be in a serious effort to get those things done. So I mean, that's what I think. And actually, I think that's a better, personally, I agree with Councilman Gaddis. I think that's a better way of moving as opposed to the imposition of fines. The question is how, how much and so forth and so on. So, and I think that certainly gets the license holder's attention to say that, the renewal is withheld until you um, make some progress on these on these plans
Yeah.
that you agreed to do.
I would also, through
So you
you,
comply.
through you, Mr. Chair, that we might consider doing a 30-day to cure. So when if they fail to submit their plan, that we give them 30 days to cure. So either to submit the plan and show that they have implemented the plan, and then if they do not cure any deficiencies in 30 days, that maybe we could move for a temporary suspension of the license, which means the company might shut down for 7 days, which may not be, and I'm sure no company wants to do that. And so I
No.
think they would move very swiftly to take advantage of the 30-day notice.
Right. And
And
I'm
just
thinking, go ahead, Councilman Jefferson.
thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and apologize for people who don't comply with a very critical aspect of our mission. I mean, our mission is to establish social equity in the adult cannabis business. I don't have to preach to you guys, or it's preaching to the choir. And I don't think we should be shy about folks who are not complying with a very critical aspect of our mission. You have to have a social equity plan, and you should have a workforce development plan. That's the whole idea of why we exist. So I
Right.
don't see why we should apologize or even go, I get the whole idea about fines because that will create some unnecessary delays because lawmakers simply don't want to go down that route. You know what I mean? But a temporary suspension is a small price to pay. Just get it right and comply.
Mhm.
You'd have to comply anyway to get the license. So
Yep.
for a renewal, I mean, it's just give us a plan. I don't think we're asking a lot. That's the point I'm making. So, and I don't think we should be shy about demanding, that critical aspect of their renewal process, of their renewal status.
Well, exactly. It's because we want to make sure that people are serious when they agree to do to make these plans, that they intend to execute them. Uh, Director Clay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to make a comment that we have not encountered a single company who is resistant to a social equity plan. So they're putting together their plan. Some of them are a little unsure as how to put them together, but my staff has been working very diligently, providing technical assistance and reading the plans and providing very detailed deficiency notices. And so once they get that, once they have a technical assistance, I actually just did a roundtable with the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce last week, and the whole roundtable was about social equity plans, how to put them together, how to implement them, how to measure the metrics, and we do not have any company that is resistant to it. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Oh, and it's good to hear. I mean, I look at this very much as I would a borrower who makes a covenant with the bank to make payments, and there's an agreement. The agreement is mutual. Now, if anything can happen, something goes along, something unexpected happens in the process. A good borrower notifies the bank ahead of time to say, look, I have a problem. So I might not be able to pay you this, make my payment. We would expect the same thing with social equity. I mean, if there's an issue going forward that for some reason, some part of the plan they're unable to implement, we want to know about that ahead of time. So, Councilman Jefferson.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, Mr. Chair. And on the flip side, I think it's incumbent upon the lender, that would be us, to provide reminder notices. I mean, if we know the application
Yes.
has to be renewed in 6 months, and I think Madam Executive Director wouldn't have a problem with sending out automatic renewal notices saying, look, a critical part of this renewal process is that you have to have a social equity plan and workforce development plan. So I think we have to do it under the most favorable conditions to the licensee. Like, we're not trying to hurt you, but we
Right.
have to, there are things that are mandated that we just cannot overlook. So however we have to get them to that point, let's do so in a way that's not so impactful that it hurts the licensee. I don't think that's what we're aiming to do.
We just want to remind them to be mindful of their
Right.
obligation. You're right. So then our next steps, Executive Director, will be what?
So let me just one comment on the,
Sure.
so built into the criteria is a 6-month report. So each applicant has to give us a 6-month report that gives us an opportunity to actually see how they're doing with their plan. And then they would provide their annual report. So we can notify them at the 6-month mark, if we find that we are concerned that they may not be able to implement their plan as approved. So there is something already built in for automatic notice.
Great.
And so I think our next steps, to answer your question, would be to get together with the DCP and have some conversations around language and what that looks like. If it's a 30-day secure, if it's a suspension, if it's a temporary. So we'll just work out the details with the DCP and bring back recommendations to this committee.
Great. So then that makes me think there's nothing then at this point for us to vote on as a committee. You're going to, I think we're all in agreement. You're going to go have that conversation and come back to us with recommendations with recommendations.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the one thing that we do plan to do is to put out an annual report of those companies that are doing well with their social equity plans and sort of an impact report. And so we will have an opportunity to highlight those companies that are doing it very, very well and the impact that they are having in the various communities. And so we actually are thinking about making that into maybe an annual event where we even bring the companies together to highlight the impact that they're having in communities. So those are still being developed. So we can really say congratulations and thank you.
That would be good PR for those that are doing well. And I can see a newscast with them highlighted, who wouldn't like that? So, great.
Okay.
Any other comments on this particular issue?
Mr. Chair, I just want to interject, if you don't mind, just to confirm, Director Clay, we can jump on and schedule an appointment, schedule a talk. Yep. Or perhaps even next week. Let's do it sooner rather than later, so we have a lot of time to go back and forth.
Sounds good. I'll ask Christina to follow up with Julianne. I think if you want to work it that way, to schedule the time and maybe have some initial conversations.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Great. All right. There's one other issue you wanted to bring forward, Director Clay.
Yes, so I just wanted to say that it is probably time to revisit the bylaws of the council. I think we've had some things go on in the last year or two that may require bylaws to be updated and or revised. So we will look through those. We will do track changes on the bylaws and get them out to the committee for your comment and review.
All right, we'll look forward to those. Thank you. Councilman Jefferson, I'm mindful of your time as well. We got about 3 minutes. So are there any other matters we need to discuss?
One last matter before we leave is we did not approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman.
Second.
Yes. A second, been properly moved and seconded, the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Great, so we have approved.
Thank you.
All right, for the good of the order, any other issues? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And once again,
Thank you.
Jenny, it was a great meeting today in the governor's office. Really appreciate it.